a webinar today on word of mouth marketing strategy in the digital age. I started a little early here, waiting for some viewers. Had about 75 people confirm that they were going to go to this. So welcome, my name's Edwin Dearborn. I'm the author of Power Branding Secrets. You can find out about my book at powerbrandingsecrets.com. And it's been out on Amazon and Kindle now for 2 weeks, and I'm very excited about it. I'm getting sales from all over the world on the subject. And Italy, Costa Rica, had some sales in Denmark, England, and the book is something I've put a lot of time into over the last couple of years to really ignite a movement, if you will, in the small business arena of how to get people to build brands that necessarily can't afford, expensive consultants and branding agencies and marketing and SEO and video marketers, and how do they really get it going? So one would think that with all this new technology, that word of mouth marketing is dead. And in actual fact, it's more alive than it ever has been. In fact, it's word of mouth, as David Meerman Scott, the author, once referred to. And I think that word of mouth has actually gone on steroids because of social media and many other factors. So what I want to go over is to the small business person, the entrepreneur, the startup, the person that's trying to develop more leads, lead generation, develop more sales, develop more customers. This is the main concerns of businesses today. I hear it all the time. Business journals talk about it all the time. I just read an article today at a blog that the number one reason why businesses do market to businesses is to generate more leads. It's not to get more traffic to their website or any of that stuff. So it's how do we generate great leads? And I believe that word of mouth has, it's kind of been accepted as the way to market a business. But I read some statistics from the Word of Mouth Marketing Association that was very telling of where people's mindset is about word of mouth marketing. They found on survey that 92 or 93% of all businesses depend on word of mouth marketing and referrals as their top source of new business. Yet only 3% of them had a proactive plan in place to generate more referrals. And what I have found is that word of mouth marketing, the concept with it is it kind of just happens when it happens. We get a referral and then we service them. If they walk in and they phone calls, we love referrals. You'll see that on signs and doors and businesses. We love referrals. But so few businesses actually have a proactive plan in place to create referrals anytime they want. And I believe that when you ask a business owner how their business was built, they'll tell you word of mouth marketing. So I put a link here, not only in the live talk that I'm giving here, but if you go to my wall on Google Plus or Twitter, I posted about an hour ago all the notes to this very webinar that you can access. So if you don't, you're not writing down the notes and you forget what the things I said, everything that I'm going over today has already been put in writing in a blog. I don't use that much, but I put it in a blog yesterday and I published it just an hour ago on Twitter at Edwin Dearborn, as well as if you go to Google Plus and type in Edwin Dearborn, it's right there on my wall, the entire notes of today's webinar. And then when this comes out as a YouTube video, I will link that blog post within the video itself. So let me go over what I go over in my notes. And I'm going to obviously give a lot more live examples than I would in a blog post because I'm here talking to you live. If you were to go to a business owner and say, what's your top source of business? They would say word of mouth referrals. Ask them this question. How can you proactively create word of mouth referrals anytime you want to? The majority of people will give you a blank stare. So yet we cite it as the number one source of building our business, yet we're completely blank as to how to proactively initiate any program to get more referrals. We love referrals, but it almost seems like we're sitting at effect and there's nothing that we can do to really instigate it. And I believe that there's nothing that's further from the truth. But it does take an analytical approach. It's not overnight. It takes consistency and work, of course. But if you do these things, what I have found from my experience, not only with branding myself and generating a lot of referrals, but also helping many businesses to do the same. So and just if you look at some of the statistics, I won't go over all of them, but 84% of consumers say that they either completely or somewhat trust recommendations from family and friends about products. This is the highest for trustworthiness. That's from Nielsen. Ogilvy Google, 74% of customers identify word-of-mouth marketing as a key influencer in their purchasing decisions. Bright Local, 88% of people have their reasons for trusting online reviews, written by people they don't even know. Bright Local, 72% say reading a positive customer review increases their trust in that business. The average Facebook fan is worth $174 per SynCaps. MarketForce found that 81% of the people they interviewed said they were influenced by what their friends said on social media. Software Advice found in their research 66% of their respondents under the age of 34 are more likely to give a referral after receiving social recognition. These are just a few of the many statistics that I cite in this blog post. So even with social media and Facebook and all these fancy apps and tools and mobile, we are still a species that is looking to other people to discover new brands and who to shop and where to buy. So word of mouth is highly influential. Here's 5 actions that I always coach a business on. Number 1 is you are going to have to position yourself as a leader, as a branding, or as an expert in your area. For myself, I position myself as a branding expert by a number of factors, and I'll go over that. But the number one important thing is that you are actually working on positioning and branding yourself as an expert within your niche or industry. Now, how do you do that? You can't just go around and go, well, I'm an expert, I'm an expert, I'm an expert. People are not going to believe you if there's not some proof or some evidence of the fact. In fact, if you keep on saying that you're an expert, you're going to come across as egotistical. And that egotistical people are not going to be somebody that people want to buy from. So let me tell you some of the things that will distinguish you as an expert, as an authority within your field. Number 1, you could author some type of material. It could be a book, an ebook, a white paper, some type of executive report. Next, you could host some type of show, like a radio show, a YouTube show, a podcast. Positive reviews from the people that have used your service and showcasing those. Positive reviews saying he's an expert, he knows what he's doing, he's the best I've ever used, right? Social proof. Case studies of companies or individuals that you've successfully helped or serviced. This is particularly true in the B2B arena. You know, case studies of like, here was what the company was before they met us, here's what we did during, here are the results after. And there was recently a report by, I forget that blog. I posted it a few days ago. It was found that in the B2B circle, the most effective content in generating leads was white papers. So if you write a very well-crafted white paper, it could actually be the thing that people pass around, and people now start to recognize you as an authority in your area. Some other areas are badges from trusted publications that you've been featured in. So maybe you've been, as seen in, as featured in. Like on my website, edwindearborn.com, at the top, I was featured in the Orange County Register as a marketing expert, quote unquote. Well, I have that at the top of my website, the quote from the Register, marketing expert. That's proof of validation that I am an expert, that other people, third-party endorsements. You could also use photographs of you speaking at large conferences or meeting with famous people or influential people. The point is, if you're going to say and position and brand yourself that you are an expert, you need the evidence within your website, within your digital properties, within your brochures that validate and strengthen that position. Okay? If you don't know how to do that, I suggest that you get my book, Power Branding Secrets, or contact someone locally in your Chamber of Commerce or Google somebody who's really good at public relations. You can hire a ghostwriter to help you write that white paper. There's different ways that you can start becoming an expert in the area. Okay, step 2. To build word of mouth, you have to have an element of transparency, which results in trust. In today's online world, transparency, whether you like it or not, we live in a very, very transparent world. As I'm giving this webinar right now, there is a big flap occurring about this dentist in Minnesota that shot Cecil the lion. Now, he posted a photograph of him shooting the lion, and it went viral the minute we found out that it was Cecil, and guess what happened? The guy's life is destroyed. So, transparency's got a dark side, right? Something like that, where it can expose you for doing something as cruel as shooting a lion. But also transparency can be wielded in your favor by allowing you to really show who you are, what your brand is about. And by doing so, like a webinar that I'm doing right now, and you're having the ability to see me and hear me and talk to me, well, guess what? That transparency makes me more real. It starts to hopefully create some type of connection, emotional connection or intellectual connection. And as a result, you might be more willing to not only buy my book or read my book or look at my blog, but you also may be willing to refer that book to somebody else or refer my services or retweet my content because you like my content. Well, guess what happens? The minute you're retweeting and sharing my content, you are developing, that is an element of word of mouth marketing. Hey, I found this great article by Edwin Dearborn. Guess what? It's so good, I feel compelled to share it with my friends. Well, we want to do that same thing with you. You've got to have an element of transparency and accessibility as a brand, as an individual, to thus build that trust, and that trust will translate into word of mouth. We never refer people to others that we don't trust because it reflects bad on us. And just as a social commentary here, I'm going to tell you why people like to refer. There's actually, you think that they're doing it for you, and to some degree they are. But more cases than not, they're doing it for themselves because it gives them recognition and social equity. Meaning, what do I mean by that? If I refer you to a great restaurant and you really have a good time, it's almost like I get friend credits. I get acknowledged as the guy that's in the know. See, there's a bit of an ego drive in referring people because, I'm the one that connects people. I'm the one that knows all the great restaurants. I'm the one that's got all the connections. Let me refer you to my connections. See, there's kind of a status in referring. Yes, they're doing it to help the person they want to refer, but there's a little bit of egotism in it as well of, hey, I'm known as the guy that connects people to great things. And it's very true. So people love to refer great people because it not only empowers the friends that they're referring to you, but it also gives them kind of some ego and friend credits, if you know what I mean. So all this tips I'm giving you are tapping into that natural emotional, psychological desire to help people and to position oneself as somebody in the know. So transparency is a very, very important factor in building trust. Now, some people go, well, how do I be transparent? How do I proactively be transparent? Well, it could be as simple as, is there a page on your website that's got a biography of you that tells people what you're into, not just a corporate description, but, give us a little flavor of your personality. Like on my site, I talk about that I love coffee, that I love American history, that I love motorcycles. I try to add a little element of personality about myself. Do you author materials? Do you video yourself? Are you on Periscope? Do you do Google Hangouts? Are you connecting people with person? Are you giving workshops, lectures? This type of allowing yourself to be seen. The greatest brands are led by the CEO. Think about it, Steve Jobs, the head of Virgin, right? I mean, it's like these guys are the brand. They're not just, the CEO. They're so out there, they're so transparent that their persona, Richard Branson's persona is so larger than life. His philosophy about life, that it rubs off on the entire Virgin brand. And so that when you're flying Virgin Airlines, it's got that element of, this is Sir Richard Branson. See? So great CEOs lead the branding and the word of mouth by really being a transparent voice for the brand itself. And I recommend that to any small business. The CEO who wants to sit in office and never say anything is, you got to lead up front, particularly in today's world. They want to know what the CEO is doing. Also, just as a note, I was trained as a fundraiser for nonprofit organizations, and they say in their manuals that one of the reasons why people donate to a nonprofit, one of the top reasons, is that they believe in the leadership of the nonprofit organization. So the quality and the transparency of the leadership is a major factor in why people donate to nonprofit organizations. So lead from front. Okay, next, a point that I talk about throughout my book, Power Branding Secrets, and in my 400 articles that I've been writing since 2009, is create great content. There's a great book called The Referral Machine. And in The Referral Machine, I forget the exact number, I think it's 50%. He found that referrals will increase by 50% if you give your referral sources something to give to the other person. Now, let me say that again. If you give something to somebody, like an object or a video or a blog post or a free download or a discount card or a brochure or whatever, you increase your chances of getting referrals by 50%. Now, if you'd like to have a 50% increase in referrals, like right away, you have to think of something that you can hand people. And so I'll give you some examples of this. Do you have discount cards or gift cards? Now think about it, at Christmas time, a lot of people give gift cards. I know when I get gift cards to restaurants I've never been to, guess what happens? I go to that restaurant, and now I'm introduced to that restaurant. Well, how did I find out about that restaurant? Somebody gave me a gift card. Someone referred me via a gift. Could you create some gifts? Could you create gift cards or somehow give something free and make it look like a gift? A free massage. I know chiropractors love to give free massages, free consultation, these type of things. When you hand people those things, you have a 50% more likelihood of getting a referral. What about, do you put on any complimentary seminars or workshops? I know several financial advisors that send out these mailers that, come to my free dinner. You'll eat at this steakhouse. Let me tell you about the 401k investment opportunities. You get 25, 30 people. It's free. Guess what? Out of 30 people, they get 2 or 3 closes. And as the people call in the schedule, bring your wife, bring your friends, they start prospecting them, and that mailer turns into a prospecting referral tool. And of course, when they become a client, they further ask them for a referral, saying, we're having another dinner. Could you bring your friends to that other dinner that we're having in about 6 weeks? See, Basically, you're putting something in front of somebody and you're giving it to them to then give to somebody else. Printed materials, one-sheets, brochures, business cards. What about YouTube video? You have a great YouTube video and you ask people to share. Do you know that when you ask somebody to retweet or share on social media, you increases your chances by about 18% that somebody will actually share it? Just saying, please retweet, please share. You'll have an 18% increase in shares. So right there, you're asking for a referral. That's the new way of asking for a referral. Please retweet is really saying, please refer my material to others. Please share. What are you saying on Facebook when you say please share? You're saying, please share my content. Please share my company's brand and its offerings to your friends and family. So you have to ask for the referral even within the digital space. And then also, what about having a Skype interview, a free Skype interview, or having Google Hangout and you tell your friends about it? That could instigate more referrals. I know that there's some people that are not only watching it live here on Google Plus, but are watching it on YouTube live stream that told me that they're coming, people that are not only friends and family of mine. So guess what's going to happen? Now they're going to know that this is a video. They've watched the video. They can then share it. That instigates more referrals. That instigates word of mouth in the digital space. Okay, point number 4. Empower your online influencers and brand ambassadors. Okay, let's cover what a brand ambassador is. A brand ambassador is really just someone who's very excited and very enthusiastic about your brand. We all know about the 80-20 rule. Well, guess what? 80% of your referrals are going to come from 20% of your referral sources. So you need to understand who they are, what motivates them, and really validate them. I know that I've got about 10 or 12 people within my phone book that are probably responsible for about 85% of my referrals. And of course, I take those people out to dinner. I refer back to them every time I find somebody that needs their services. I give them free consultations on their marketing and branding. I'm always taking their phone calls and they'll say, hey, Ed, I've got a question about my marketing. Can you have 5 minutes? Absolutely. Why would I not want to empower my brand ambassadors? But the reality is you should treat all of your customers like brand ambassadors. And I'll get into that into a second of how you can activate more of your customers as word of mouth referral sources. Now, an online influencer could be a media outlet, a local blogger, right? Someone who's in the digital space that's got the ability to reach an audience that you don't own. So let's say you have what they call a foodie blogger. They love to blog about restaurants, and you have a restaurant. Well, I would be inviting those bloggers over for a free meal, asking how they loved it, and then go, hey, if you feel like blogging about my restaurant, that would be great, right? Well, of course, if you've given them a free meal and you've treated him like a king, that guy blogs, and guess what? Maybe he's got 2,000 followers that just love what his next recommendation will be. Well, imagine if a restaurant cultivated 20 or 30 of these food bloggers over a year, what type of word of mouth that they could develop and the type of referrals that they could do in the digital space, as well as inviting over reporters that want to find, maybe they're doing a piece on somebody who started a small business on a shoestring budget. There's different angles that can be gotten where you can actually find influential people within the digital space, within the media, within your local area that have a big influence upon the opinions of others. In other words, they're referring your name to their audience. So if you don't have a big audience, that's where public relations comes into play. Somebody made a very astute observation. They said the definition of advertising is what you say about yourself. The definition of public relations is what other people say about you. And people tend to believe what other people say about you. So when you get the media, small or large, you get bloggers, You get these type podcasters, local key opinion leaders talking about you. It has a big impact on the amount of people that will eventually know about your brand and eventually start to inquire about what you can do for them, as well as just maybe just walk in and consume your products and services. Okay. My last step that I want to go over here is you have to turn social media into social sharing. Now, what I mean by social media into social sharing, that doesn't mean that you're sharing your content. And if you're creating lots of great content, you should be sharing it. You should be taking your blog posts and your latest videos and sharing them on Facebook and Google Plus and LinkedIn and Twitter. In fact, you can share your content on Twitter multiple times throughout the week. Different hashtags, different titles. You can email it out. You can put it on various forums to answer people's questions like Quora.com. I've done that very successfully to reach people. But what I'm talking about is not you pushing out your content, but getting people within the social media world to then retweet it, share it, and even instigate and even create the content for you. We call this user-generated content. User-generated content is such. One of your fans writes a blog about you. One of your fans does a review on YouTube about you. A media outlet talks about you because they found you on social media. Somebody leaves a positive review on Facebook, Yelp, Google My Business, TripAdvisor, Foursquare, etc., etc. That's user-generated content. And I want to cite you one example that hopefully kind of instigates some bright ideas with you. There's a cafe, and if you know me, I love coffee. Right? I'm a big coffee hound. And I don't just like coffee, I love great coffee. And right here in Orange County, there is a coffee place called The Lost Bean. And it is owned and operated by a good friend of mine named Bodie. And Bodie has owned The Lost Bean for about 10 years. And it serves organic coffee. So there's no pesticides or herbicides used in the coffee beans and GMO free and all that neat stuff, right? Plus, it's just it's kind of like your second living room, right? You walk in, people know your name. People kind of, they're dressed kind of funky. It's not corporate, and it's just, I love it. And so he'd asked me to help him with his marketing. I mean, he was making money, but, it wasn't like he was killing it. And he's like, I've got a great fan base. How do I grow my business? So I sat in his coffee house for about an hour, and I just watched, and I said, Bodie, you've got a lot of people walking in and out. I mean, the body traffic is amazing. And you've got a lot of regulars because I've been coming here a lot. He's like, yeah, I've got, maybe 300, 400, 500 regulars on a daily basis, plus the whatever random traffic that people come maybe once a week or twice a week, right? So he's got maybe 700 or 800 people a day walk into his coffee house buying a coffee. That's a lot of body traffic. So I said, Bodie, the entire time I was watching, there was no engagement. You didn't ask anybody to engage on social media while they were here. So what I want you to do is offer them a 10% discount on the coffee if they check in on Yelp or Google. And then I also want you to grab their business card so we can get their email and tell them we're going to have a raffle for free coffee every week. So we started collecting identities. We started collecting business cards. And within a week, we had 1/3 of these people checking out on Yelp and Facebook. That means out of 800 people, we were getting, 250, 270 people a day checking in on social media. Well, guess what happens when you check in? That your check-in is telling people where you're at. So it becomes a conversation literally on social media, like, hey, you checked into The Lost Bean. What's that? So we've instigated word of mouth. We've instigated a conversation between outside parties about your brand. Okay, so we kept on doing that day in, day out, collecting the email addresses, and then once a week we built up I think within about a month or two, we had 1,000 email addresses, and we were routinely getting about 35% of the people checking in, just like every day, like they wanted their discount. So that means every day they were telling their friends on Facebook and Yelp that they were at this coffee house. Within 6 months, we increased his profits by 20% by just leveraging social media into social sharing. So now you have to ask yourself as a brand, whether you're a solopreneur, whatever, how can you incentivize, how can you involve your audience, your customers, to talk about you? It could be as simple as emailing out your blog post going, hey, I'm trying to reach this type of person with this blog post. If you know somebody that suffers from this problem or has these challenges, would you do them a favor and share this with them? Share this via email. Would you be okay on retweeting it? The point is what we're doing is we are turning our social media connections into social sharing opportunities. And that's really what marketing is about, and branding and word of mouth. So let me end off on this because it's now been a half an hour, and I hope you've enjoyed this. Word of mouth is definitely a proactive contact sport. It is not something that you have to sit back and wait for and hope that occurs. Once you change your mind and develop a proactive strategy about word of mouth, you've already changed the paradigm right there. By just going, you know what, I'm not going to sit there and wait for it to happen or hope that it happens. I'm going to instigate some programs. And then once you do, you have to take a look at, how do I become a leader? How do I brand myself as a leader to inspire more trust? How do I become more transparent as a brand to build that trust more rapidly with my resources? How do I create content that just begs to be shared, that begs to have word of mouth impel it, videos, whatever? And then as well, how do I turn my contacts into brand ambassadors? And how do I turn my social media into social sharing? There's so many ways that all these things can be done. I wish I could go into in-depth, but I want to keep this just to a half an hour. I want to thank you for joining me. Again, my name is Edwin Dearborn. Hopefully you'll get my book, Power Branding Secrets, at powerbrandingsecrets.com. And if you want some more in-depth information about this very video, you'll find it on YouTube here very shortly, as well as I've posted it on my Twitter wall, as well as my Google+. And the article that this video is based upon goes into a lot more information, a lot more statistics, resources, etc. Thank you so much. I hope this has somehow maybe impelled some new ideas. I hope you have a successful brand. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at edwindearborn@me.com. Thank you very much.